What's going on, guys? It's your boy Rebirth here to bring you the latest news and the fallout from Bleach at Jump Festa 2023, which was yesterday. Now, me and the crew had a 9-hour live stream from the moment Jump Festa began all the way up until Bleach's panel, which was a total of about 9 hours and 9 minutes. We just ran all the way through. And so if you're here watching this and you were there yesterday, I want to say thank you. A big thank you to everybody who showed up. I appreciate it. To everyone who donated, to everyone who commented. Thank you very much. I truly, truly appreciate it. But putting that to the side, let's observe and let's talk about what we got from Jump Festa. Now, as you can see on your screen right now, this is a key visual for the finale of Bleach 1000 Year Blood War Core 1. You can see it's a picture of Ichigo, Ishin, Masaki, the Blade Enemy, Bleach 1000 Year Blood War, Episode 11, Everything But the Rain, Part 1 Finale, 12 and 13. Now, let's talk about this for just a little bit. One of my favorite aspects of this photo is the level of muscle definition put on Ichigo. As you can see right here, Ichigo's muscle definition is extremely high, and I like it. The muscles, his biceps, his chest, everything looks immaculate, and I really, really like it. Moving forward from there, of course, you can see Ishin in the background on our left and Masaki on the right. I do like how they've doused Ishin in black and doused Masaki in white, being that Ishinigami wear black, Masaki's a Quincy's wear white. But even though that's the case, in terms of Ichigo's shading, his right side, comparative to us, so just from the way we're looking, his right side is darkened out and his left side has the light, which is opposite to what's actually happened behind, where it's the other side that has the light and then this side has the black. It inverts on Ichigo. It's just trying to do the best it can from a visual perspective to connect the two, that they are different but then they're mirroring each other, so to create this form of unity as far as Ichigo is concerned. Now, to look at the swords, this is his Arrancar sword, and then this is the Quincy hunting knife, as we've aptly called it. You know, Quincy corresponding to Masaki right here, and then the Arrancar-ish sword corresponding to his dad over here, but it's not nearly that simple though. Even though it's Arrancar, the hollow part of it is coming from his mother, and so it's really not complicated. I want to say it's complicated, but it's not that simple as to just divide it that way. But I do enjoy it. I do like how big, like, that sword is massive. Like, these two swords are massive. It's crazy. But anyway, moving on to just talk about the other things that transpired at Jump Festa. We didn't get a ton of anime-centric news per se, but we did get a little bit of interesting information that I think is worth talking about. First of all, during the event, they started the event playing the Rapport the Rapport Rewind PV that we got at the end of episode number 1, which for us in the stream at the time, we were very scared because, like, oh my goodness, you're about to waste time, but it was fine. Coming out of that Rewind PV, we then went into the introduction to the cast. Kubo was there, Morita, Ichigo's voice actor, Renji's, Uryu's, and Rukia's. They were all there, and they had this little section where they spoke about their favorite parts of the anime so far. And I'm only going to highlight 2 of them. So Morita's favorite scene in the anime so far was the beginning of the 1000 Year Blood War, where Ichigo makes his appearance, goes Bankai to destroy the Hollows. And, you know, Kubo mentions that was implemented by the director, Tomohisa Takeuchi. And then Kubo's favorite part of the arc so far is the battle between Yamamoto and Yuha, specifically the part where he does Zankanadachi South, which makes sense. Kubo actually goes on record saying he had the most fun drawing the battle between Yuha and Yamamoto and Zaraki versus Unohana than anything else in the series. So that's something worth talking about right there. We also then got a surprise visit from Tomohisa Takeuchi at Studio Pierrot headquarters in his Bleach studio, whatever he's doing. And he also gives some comments, not a lot there per se, but obviously he's there trying his best to give us the best possible content he can. He's working hard, he's still in the studio, you know, just doing the best he can to give us amazing content. And then the next piece of information I want to talk about here is in reference to the cut content, because there was a little bit of a running gag throughout this entire interaction between Morita and Kubo, and really the rest of the cast, having to do with the cut content, because on one end, Kubo goes out to say that he told Taguchi, if it interferes with the flow of the anime, feel free to cut as many things as you need. And Morita was mad, not really mad, but he was bothered or he was pouting that the anime cut out the Rukia Peach scene. and he was like, I was looking forward to Ichigo's reaction to what he saw. To which Kubo just laughs at it and says, yeah, sorry, we had to cut it out. And there's a little bit of a running gag where Morita, as he's live recording for the episode, will try and say lines corresponding to other scenes so that they'll be forced to go back in and implement them. And so in order to get around Morita's joke here, they make it so that Morita doesn't have a lot of time in between statements. It's almost after he speaks, we immediately have to move on to something else to stop him from just saying a line from a cut content. The entire vibe from the cast and the crew and the members and Kubo was very cordial. They were very funny. It was very relaxed, and I can see why they enjoy working together. It was probably the most relaxed panel we saw at Jump Festa up to that point, at least to me. They seemed very, very comfortable around each other, which makes sense considering how long they've been working with each other. But possibly the most controversial part of this entire interaction, Kubo thought of the possibility of implementing Unohana's backstory having to do with her origin, the reason she picked up her sword, why she was known as the most notorious criminal in the past, how she was assimilated into the 13 Kogar squad, into her relationship and meeting with Kenpachi. And the reason why he didn't allow it to be implemented is because he felt that it would derail from the battle between Kenpachi and Unohana in the moment, because it's an entire flashback sequence, which could go for a while. And it was very hilarious to see Morita and the others live time just be like, are you kidding me? Of course we'd want to see it. Why didn't you show us? And Kubo literally looks him in the face and says no, because Morita is asking him, well, why don't you tell us? And Kubo's like, no. And they laugh it off, but it's crazy. It's classic Kubo trolling. Like, he's just the massive troll overlord, because Kubo actually goes and he says, I've forgotten what it was because I don't have the recording of the event, so I've forgotten exactly what Kubo said, but he quoted a quote from a book or from some poem that ultimately just boils down to not know is like a flower, is like a beautiful flower, something to that effect. I'm trying to remember what it was. I can't really place the exact quote, but it basically amounts to there is beauty in the mystery, and the fact that you don't know. Kubo as a writer enjoys having these mysterious paths and these mysterious onset points that lend itself to the reader's imagination, and he really enjoys that. And if you read Bleach, you'll know that that's something Kubo has been doing for a long time. It's the same reason Kubo will not give Aizen a backstory / tell us what Aizen's backstory is. He won't do it because he believes that it takes away from Aizen's character if you know exactly everything there is to know about him. The fact that you don't know exactly what turned him this way, the fact that you don't know how his beginnings were, Kubo believes actually adds to the mystique and the reason why you like him so much. In that if you know everything about him, there's something lost in the process. Now, I'm of the opinion that I would like to know more than less. However, I do understand Kubo's point in that there is something lost in knowing absolutely everything about a character. And with Aizen as popular as he is, we don't know his backstory, and he's still one of the greatest villains of all time. That's proof on Kubo's part that it is enough and that it does work. To some degree, of course. I would still prefer to know everything possible. Kubo also mentioned that he has a very good relationship with Taguchi and that he dug up old manuscripts and old memos for plot points that he wanted to implement and threw away. He dug it up, he looked it up, and he gave it to the anime staff. In addition to that, we get confirmation of the extra scenes that Kubo added. Specifically, they only highlight the Shojiro and Yamamoto scene, where they ask Kubo, what is Shojiro's Bankai? Kubo drew an illustration for them, and then he handed it in, and then they added it to the anime. And so, Kubo is very involved in the anime process. With whatever is being cut and whatever is being added, it passes by Kubo before it goes into its final form. That is a fact that all Bleach fans have to accept. And while I have you here, I do have to say this, because if you're here, if you made it this far, let me make this point. I've seen a lot of people complain about Unohana and Zaraki's fight being short. Luckily for us on stream, we have the time to look into it. If you look at the comparison between the old Bleach anime, how they could have an entire episode and a half for Ichigo v Grimmjow, where the latter part of one episode was Grimmjow reviving Ichigo in the setup for the fight, and then the beginning of the next episode all until the end was the entire fight. Ichigo versus Grimmjow in the manga was 7 chapters. In comparison, Kenpachi versus Unohana in the manga was 2.5 chapters. That's how short that fight was. It wasn't as long as people seem to have expected. In the manga, it was extremely short. 2.5 chapters is very short. And the anime added a ton of stuff, and it still wasn't enough for some people. I don't know what they expected. Just for comparison, if you imagine a fight worth an entire episode, you would have to go back to Ichigo versus Grimmjow, Ichigo versus Ulquiorra, where the amount of chapters for the fight is 7 chapters plus. That's how much chapters you need to be able to feasibly just jam-pack an entire episode for one fight, with all of it being realistically relevant. The same thing applies with Yamamoto, where Yamamoto and Yu Yu Ha's fight was long enough that it was one episode. And that's just how it works. And so I don't really know why people expected something long from Kenpachi Unohana. The one thing I will agree with people on here is that the second half of chapter 9 and the beginning half of chapter 10 were basically the Kenpachi versus Unohana fight. If they had taken those two halves and put them in one episode, people were probably happy and they probably accepted. But the fact that it was separated into like the end of chapter 9 and the beginning of chapter 10 probably messed up the pacing. I will agree with that. So the last point I'll make before I get out of here is that Kubo said that last night up until like 2 a.m. he was reviewing scripts for Core 2. That's how involved Kubo is. Just last night he was reviewing the scripts, and to me it proves two things. Number one, Kubo is as involved as we think he is, and number two, Kubo is working extremely hard on the script to the point where I feel like Core 2 onward is where you're going to get a bunch of new extra information, because Core 1 really was fine. There wasn't really that much to implement. And it also means that you're going to have to wait a while before you get Helllock stuff or Burn the Witch stuff. I know it sucks. I know we all want it, but unfortunately, based on Kubo and based on everything, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer for Kubo to get a little bit more free before you can even think of a Helllock continuation, or better yet, a Burn the Witch 2 serialization. So anyway, that's all I have for right now. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next Rebirth video. This is your boy, signing out. Peace.